Hello and welcome to the Tech and Sports Podcast. Tech and Sports is a show about how technology is revolutionizing all of the major sports as well as health and fitness. You can find it on your podcast service of choice. My name is Alex Radu and I'm here with the extraordinary Mandy Kovacs.
Hello.
This week we discuss social media's impact on trade deadlines, plus all of the biggest news from the last week, new apps or wearables, and your weekly concussion update. But before we get to that, we would really appreciate it if you would review and rate the Tech and Sports Podcast on iTunes and Google Play or wherever else you get your podcasts from. It really does help us grow the show, and we really appreciate all of the support so far. And with that, sit back and relax, because the Tech and Sports crew is entering the game. All right, Mandy, the news.
All right, so the 2018 Winter Olympics are officially underway, so a lot of our news comes from that. First up, Apple has debuted a new section of its Apple News that will be dedicated to the Winter Olympics in partnership with NBC. While it'll work anywhere Apple News is available, video links may not work outside of the US. The apps will let users watch events, find out when events are happening, and even add them to your calendar. And similarly, Snapchat is introducing a new live feature that will showcase NBC's coverage of the Olympics as well. Users can go to the Discover page on the app and tune in to NBC's broadcasts, where they're even able to zoom in on different live angles. However, this is only available for Snapchat users in the US. But for those Canadians out there, rest assured that CBC will be live streaming both the opening and closing ceremonies on Twitter, as well as every event on its CBC Olympics app and dedicated website.
You know what I wonder is if you are a Snapchat user or an Apple News user / watcher, whatever, and you are at the Olympics and you're trying to watch an event that you could not attend, or you're an athlete and you could not attend something and you wanted to watch it, would you be able to? Probably not.
I don't know. I mean, it would depend who you're with, like your mobile carrier.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I guess, if it's only for Snapchat users in the US, I guess the Snapchat one is completely out of the...
Yeah, I don't know if that would actually work if you were in South Korea.
So sorry, all the millennials and Gen Z users in South Korea.
I know. A little jealous of them, but whatever. All right, in our last Olympic story of the day, NBC has partnered with Intersection, a smart city and digital media solution company, to bring Olympic content to screens and billboards across New York City, Chicago, and Philadelphia. So think of the digital screens on bus stations or on the subway that usually show advertisements. With this partnership, many of those will instead show Olympic highlights, athlete profiles, and real-time notifications and medal counts. And NBC supplemented this with another partnership with Uber this time, so that when you order an Uber and get into the car, you can actually watch Olympic recaps or athlete interviews that have been specifically curated for that car ride by NBC's Olympic team.
Sounds like it's going to cost a lot of data.
Yeah, probably. I hope all these people have like the 10 gig plans.
Yeah, well, granted, phone plans are cheaper in the U.S.
So much cheaper.
But no, it's cool. I really like it's a weird propaganda type thing.
A little bit.
But it is a cool way to, people get pumped about the Olympics, and it's a cool way to show your patriotism.
Yeah, I actually love the idea. I'm a super big Olympic fan, so, if I were walking down the street in downtown Toronto, this is not in Toronto, but if it were, I would love it. Walking by a bus station, you'd be able to see if Canada's won a medal in the 10 minutes you were in the subway or something and didn't have service.
Yeah, no, it would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Cool. All right, now in hockey news, the NHL is apparently discussing the idea of putting time limitations on referees when reviewing plays. So the discussion came up during the All-Star game about 2 weeks ago when the NHL Hockey Operations Director Colin Campbell held a meeting with the 4 All-Star team coaches, as well as the on-ice officials and some of the general managers that were in town. And time limits were brought up as a potential solution to some of the controversy that's come from video replays recently. So the next GM meeting is in March, so I'm sure this will be brought up again there. And we've been talking about this for a while now, so I'm assuming, Alex, you're probably on board with this.
Yeah, I've been preaching a time limit for video replay for quite a while now.
Yeah.
I think it's really the best way to solve it, because I think you get the best of both worlds. You appease the side that thinks it's ruining the sport, and then you appease the side that's trying to get for the right answer. Because I think it's just the best way. 120 seconds. You don't need more than that.
Right, so that was going to be my next question, because the MLB is considering 120 seconds or 2 minutes. Do you think the NHL should stick with that number as well, or do you think that should be a little higher?
I don't know why you would need more than 2 minutes.
Hockey's a faster moving sport. than baseball.
Still though, but like you're still trying to look at similar type plays, like, oh, did the puck cross a line, or was this interference or something like that? Like, just decide what the rule is.
Should it be tiered? You know, you get like an extra minute for goal reviews versus like an offside review.
No, it should just be 120 seconds, and there should be no offside review because it is ridiculous.
All right, well, we'll try to get you to the GM meeting in March. All right, next up, many of you might be familiar with the fitness app Strava, which tracks user workouts through GPS technology and has 27 million users around the world. Well, Strava releases global heat maps, which highlight areas of activity among its community that uses the GPS data captured via satellites. Strava only uses information on the map if people have given explicit permission and say that they publish the map to inspire other users. Well, last week, the Washington Post reported that these heat maps accidentally revealed sensitive information and activity on U.S. military bases, at humanitarian sites, and at top secret locations. So Strava's maps of conflict areas generally don't have much light, but in areas like Iraq and Syria, if you zoom in on some of the scattered pinpricks of activity, it brings into focus the locations and outlines of known U.S. military bases, as well as some other unknown and potentially secret sites based on soldiers' training and jogging patterns around the camp. So Strava has realized its error, and it's now working with military and government officials to make sure this doesn't happen. But I mean, I saw this when it blew up on Twitter last week, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever, which is probably not good for the U.S. military, but I mean...
It's not.
But the fact that this is what potentially gave away some secret sites in, like, the Middle East, that's wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel like we're going to hear more and more of this type of stuff as more and more people get connected, and those apps, although all this is going to happen soon, and then there's just going to be laws that automatically are going to, all these companies are going to have to make sure that they're not showing that type of stuff, because that is like potentially like people's lives.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
No, but that's super fascinating.
It is, right? And, like, I was looking at the maps, too, and, like, you can clearly see where they jog around the perimeter of whatever base that they're at. Like, it's intense.
It's good to know that even soldiers need fitness apps as well.
Yeah, you know, just regular folks like us. All right, and now I know the Super Bowl was last weekend, but we have a couple stories about it still. Adidas unveiled its new data-driven football cleats called the AM4MN, which stands for Adidas Made for Minnesota, because they were unveiled at the Super Bowl. These cleats were customized for each individual player, like Brandon Bolden of the New England Patriots, by using foot scans and motion capture technology used by NASA to provide the right kind of support and stability in areas that athletes need it the most. The coolest thing is that these cleats were actually designed at the Germany-based Adidas location called the Speed Factory in under 2 weeks, which is 3 times faster than normal shoe production.
I love all we talk about like shoe technology a lot now because every single company is doing stuff with that. Yeah. But if this is going to at some point hopefully make shoes a little cheaper, like awesome cool shoes, that's awesome because
and more comfortable.
Yeah, more comfortable, I mean, like as a large, tall person, I would love like cheaper, like specifically designed for my feet shoes. That would be awesome.
Same. I mean, like I have a size 10 in women's, and that's a pretty big shoe size. It's hard to find shoes that fit properly at regular stores.
Yeah, that's fair. As a size 13 men's.
Yeah. All right, last but not least, apparently last week's Super Bowl had a record-setting streaming audience, drawing an average crowd of just over 2 million viewers through the NBC website and apps, the NFL Mobile from Verizon, and the Yahoo Sports app. It peaked at about 3.1 million viewers, which makes it the 10th most watched show in television history and the most streamed Super Bowl ever. Although NBC only started live streaming the big game in 2012, so that isn't really that big of a stat, but it does say something about how we as viewers are consuming sports nowadays.
What I find interesting about this is the biggest conversation against cutting the cord is how you're going to watch sports. Until that becomes super easy. Like if you want to watch basketball and you cut the cord and you don't have TSN though, then that kind of sucks, because if you want to watch the Raptors here in Toronto, games are still blacked out if they're showed on a local channel. So until those problems get solved, people are not going to consume sports by cutting the cord still.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it does show that those options are getting more and more available, because this is still 3.1 million viewers, top 10th most watched show. That's still pretty big. That's a big deal. So it's going to be interesting to see now how that ramps up, and if this is then a further proving ground to get more companies to become more on board with it.
I mean, we'll talk about this in a later episode too, but I've always wondered, though, if you add up all the costs of the streaming sites that you pay for and compare that to how expensive cable packages are nowadays, like, how would that shape up?
They're roughly the same.
Yeah.
Like, I have looked into it.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are, it also depends on what you need.
True.
And
what you watch.
And what you watch. So if you're going to pay for Netflix, Hulu, HBO Go, all that, you're already starting to get into the 50-ish a month range. So,
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the news today.
Awesome. All right. So next up, we have the new products and apps this week. So we're going to look right now first at Push, which it's not exactly new, but it's just kind of getting some attention this week because the Winter Olympics, as we all know, are in full swing now. And so this is a fun training product that a lot of teams, a lot of athletes just at the Olympics have been using. So Push is a Toronto-based sports tech company that's created a device that tracks the power of an athlete's movements to complement training methods already used in sports called velocity-based training, or VBT. Essentially, it's trying to calculate an athlete's intensity by comparing the velocity of their movements from rep to rep or pitch to pitch, what have you. So they do this by having a sensor attached to an armband that tracks the velocity of an athlete's movements. This is then displayed on an app. So currently Push is working with various athletes at the Olympics, as well as multiple NHL, NBA, and MLB teams. So this is just another example of tech used by athletes to maximize their abilities in sports. It's something we've talked about a lot. And it's really not too expensive either. If you are a trainer and just looking to weight lifts and to improve your body, and that's something you really want to focus on, the Push band starts at $289 USD for the individual armband, and then there are a whole range of kits and coach packages and stuff available as well. But this is something, Mandy, that you and I have talked about quite a bit about just finding those little nitty-gritty stats that are going to, maybe it's not going to super improve you, but you can maximize your athleticism.
Yeah, in games of like milliseconds, it makes all the difference, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what I love about this though is that it's like it tracks power and velocity. I mean, I feel like we cover a lot of apps and wearables and stuff that, cover speed, or they track heart rate and various health and fitness things, but you don't often see something actually measuring the power that athletes have. So I think that's a really cool twist on this app. I mean, like, we've talked about, like, things that you can wear while you're swimming and stuff. If you could get a swimming wearable that tracks the power of your kicks versus the power of your arms, and it could balance that way, and see what you need to work on more at the gym, for example.
Yeah, a great example of just this velocity-based training that I was reading up on is, let's say you're doing 10 reps of something, you can track how much how fast you're doing each rep, so then you can kind of track the intensity of that.
Yeah.
So a trainer could be like, hey, when you get to the 7th rep, you got to make sure to keep going, and you can keep tracking that and actually get like a tangible result rather than just being like, I'm pretty sure I went faster, but I don't know how much faster. So it is a really cool app in that regard.
No, I love that, and it's not even that expensive. I would consider buying that.
Yeah, $289. All right, so next, there's only 2 things today, or this week anyways. We have custom mouth guards from Guard Lab that are created through 3D digital scanning and 3D printing tech. Called the Apex Guard, it essentially uses digital scanning to create mouth guards that fit perfectly around your teeth for optimal protection, and is made with the company's Trauma Shield, which is its shock-absorbent material. And for athletes who don't have nearby Guard Lab scanning stations, there is now a digitized at-home impression kit that will allow you to mold your mouth guard at home. So what stands out the most for me here is how Guard Lab is working with dentists actually to find the most optimal way to protect a player's mouth and teeth, which I think is a really super important part of sports. Everyone wants good teeth, and you see, especially in hockey and in UFC and stuff like that, teeth are quite vulnerable.
Some of them are missing. So, can even say.
Yeah, and you know what? So these are also fairly cheap. They start at $30 USD, so it is certainly affordable. And as someone who had to wear a lot of mouth guards playing sports growing up, I hated it. I absolutely they were always uncomfortable in my mouth. So this could be a way for people who just don't like chewing them, like Steph Curry, who likes to just like pretend that he's wearing it.
I was going to say, or James Van Riemsdyk of the Leafs.
Yeah.
It's constantly hanging out of his mouth and he's just chewing it.
Yeah.
I think he said he goes through like 20 every season, which is crazy.
And also disgusting. So this is another way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Good for them. And again, like you said, I love that they're working with dentists because, I mean, I feel like that is a collaboration that you expect to be happening, but really hasn't until recently. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, good for them. Science, yeah. We're all about facts.
Yeah, and it's I'd like to see more partnerships with people like dentists and like doctors and all that. They're so important to creating sports technology instead of just a bunch of tech people and athletes trying to come up with the science behind it. You need actual trained professionals.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, so that's it for the new products and apps today. All right, so on today's concussion update, we've got some promising-ish news. But before we get to that, a reminder of what the problem is. That we're gonna get into this every single week. So every day, a large portion of athletes with a history of repetitive head trauma are battling with progressive neurodegenerative brain disease called CTE. Symptoms of CTE include blurred vision, dementia, depression, headaches, memory loss, and mood swings. There is no cure, and only gets worse with time. This is the number one issue in sports, so every week we'll be updating you on what is happening in the world of concussion prevention technology. So this week, this is based on an article that was published in CNET around the time of the Super Bowl. We always criticize the NFL and NHL for not doing enough about concussions, and while that is still true, at least the NFL is making some strides. And it's not really a stride, it's more of like a tiny step. So this article highlights that the NFL announced that it was awarding $150,000 to 3 concussion and injury tech startups after a total of 281 concussions were reported this NFL season. This is the biggest number since 2015. This is part of the NFL's First and Future competition, which was held the Saturday before the Super Bowl, where startups compete for a prize money / funding for their projects. It's also just a great event for these startups to get some exposure. So the 3 big winners this year are Imprezio, who won the Advancement in Protective Equipment category with their new helmet padding technology made out of this liquid crystal foam that they say can do a better job absorbing the force created during head impact. Then there is RecoverX, who won the New Therapies to Speed Recovery category with a connected device used for hot and cold therapy to treat player injuries on the go. Then lastly, there's Curve, who won the Technology to Improve Athletic Performance category with augmented reality on mobile devices that measures player abilities and injury risk. So obviously it's not all specifically around concussions right there, but this is a start. It's awesome that the NFL is actually highlighting this new technology. And sure, $150,000 over 3 companies is nothing for the NFL in the grand scheme of things, but it's something, and at least they're continuing to give more awareness to it. So, Mandy, what do you think about it?
Right, I mean, exactly. At least they're doing something, and they're actually holding this event. So I believe this was the 3rd annual event, and they're going to keep on holding it, and that's great, because they're looking for solutions for a problem that's very clearly in this sport. So, I mean, I love the first one, Imprezio, who created the new helmet padding technology. I mean, that sounds awesome. I don't know why that hasn't really been thought of before, or I don't know why helmet companies have not, like, dabbled in this before. But the second one by RecoverX, which created a connected device for hot and cold therapy. I find that really interesting because, I mean, you know how Tom Brady hurt his hand before the Olympic, or before the Super Bowl? He was wearing this special glove, which I found out had like infrared technology in it to speed up healing. So I wonder if that's similar or related to that at all, because apparently he loves it, and apparently his new bedding line also has infrared technology embedded in it because he thinks it actually speeds up healing. And I mean, I don't know the science behind it. I don't know if it actually does, but I mean, he believes it. So like that sort of thing is cool, that, you know, fast tracking healing. That's awesome.
What's cool is that the NFL is recognizing that they're all not specifically equipped to necessarily solve this issue, but there are other people who are, and other people who are looking to do that. So they're giving them a platform. Like, even the people who didn't win, you still have investors there. You still have people who are interested. You have athletes. Like, why, you know, if athletes are making so much money these days, why not invest a little bit in this technology, especially if it gets off, and then they're potentially making more money than their contract. So it's really interesting to see. And it's not just concussions. We want this focus on concussions, but injuries, you know, destroy athletes all the time. Like, if we can completely rejuvenate knees, then basketball players' lifespans are going to be so much greater.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, there are concussions is the most pressing and necessary one to fix first. But it's cool that there's all types of things happening. Not everyone's a concussion expert. Some people are knee experts or shoulder experts or hand experts, whatever. So it is really cool to see that at least people are getting a platform.
Yeah. And I love the fact that the players were there as well, right? So they can look around at all of these solutions being created and maybe get ideas on their own, like of who to partner with or different technologies that they want to use, even though the company may not have been chosen to win the category, but at least they're seeing what's out there and they're seeing that people are working on this stuff to try and help them survive in the long run.
Exactly. All right, and that's it for our concussion update this week. We'll be back next week to remind you guys that concussions are important.
All right, for our discussion topic today, we're going to look at whether social media is ruining or helping the trade deadline. The NHL's is coming up in a few weeks, and the NBA's just passed. And I mean, if any of you are paying attention, the Cavs basically traded away half their roster. But a lot of the news broke on Twitter via the Woj, who decides to break every basketball trade ever because he's amazing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you could say the same thing in hockey with whether it's Bob McKenzie, Elliot Friedman, a lot of those things. They happen on social media, and sometimes people find out before the teams even tell them. So we're going to talk about, whether social media is ruining it. I
mean, I think that it's a resounding no. But let's hear the argument of that it is first.
Right. So, I guess in a way I'm playing devil's advocate because obviously, Alex, you don't believe it's ruining it. And I don't necessarily agree with my own argument, but I want to bring that point up, though, because, I mean, in the past, some players or coaches have actually found out if they've been traded or fired from social media, and it can blindside people. Like Milwaukee Bucks head coach Jason Kidd was fired at the beginning of the year, and he apparently found out he was fired from Twitter. And then there's also the current Seattle Mariners second baseman, Dee Gordon, who found out he was traded to the Marlins back in 2014 from his grandma, who saw the reports break on Twitter and then on the news. And apparently it took the Marlins another 5 hours to actually get back to Gordon and confirm he was going to the team. So, I mean, just the speculations on social media, it's all just kind of crazy. And to me, it's a little unfair to some of the coaches and players. Because it really leaves them in this weird sort of limbo. So back in 2015, New York Mets shortstop Wilmer Flores was actually in tears after seeing reports online that he had been traded to the Milwaukee Brewers, and teammates started posing for goodbye pictures of him, posting it online. The team even said goodbye to him, and then the deal fell apart really quickly and he didn't end up going anywhere, and he had one of his best games the next day. But that sort of inner turmoil, I really feel had a big impact on him. And I mean, you can even look at Johnny Manziel or Johnny Football, whatever you want to call him. He hasn't made any team in the NFL, but he's tried out for the Hamilton Ticats of the CFL recently and seems to be getting close to signing a contract there. But last week, TSN tweeted that he and the team weren't even close to reaching a deal. And he actually responded to the tweet saying it was all a lie. But I feel like that sort of thing gets into the head of some of these younger players that may not be able to handle this sort of attention or these rumors being spread about them. So I don't know. I mean, I love social media, and I don't know if I fully believe this argument, but I do recognize that social media has an impact on some players, and it stresses them out. I don't know. It's good for fans, but I don't know if it's good for coaches or players.
I don't think the coaches or players get a choice. They live their life on social media, and you can't, Johnny Football can't live his life on social media and then also complain about news breaking about him on it.
Fair, but there are some players that are purposely private about their lives and private about everything, their training lives, that sort of thing, right? And so for all of these rumors to be swirling around them.
I mean, but I guess those are that would be personal rumors in a text. This is just about the team. This is I'll agree. It sucks. The Clippers did Blake dirty when Blake Griffin found out that he was traded.
Yeah, that's another one,
on Twitter. But it was also entertaining as heck because he then tweeted that Will Smith shocked gif. But
that's only because he has a sense of humor, though.
Yeah, well, again, but more athletes growing up around social media. A lot of these kind of examples are not recent necessarily examples, and then Jason Kidd's, basically an old, angry man.
I guess.
So the thing is it's just entertaining. The NBA trade deadline was some of the most fun I've ever had on social media, and it was just, when you start seeing Woj tweet out, oh, Lakers are trading with the Cavs, and you're like, oh, that's That's crazy. That's awesome. Cool. And then you see 20 minutes later, Cavs made another trade. And then 20 minutes later, Cavs made another trade. And then they've traded half their team in like 45 minutes. And everyone's freaking out together collectively. You have NBA players like Chandler Parsons tweeting out videos of him just refreshing Woj's page. And
that was me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, like it does suck that some players and coaches are finding out about their jobs on social media from reports. But it's also just now the nature of the beast. And it does add a completely new type of engagement to the fan experience. And then here's the other thing. It also gives players, though, more of a connection to fans. Larry Nance Jr., Laker, was just traded to Cleveland or at the deadline. He Instagrammed just this nice post about, thanking LA for everything they've done for him and how he's excited to get back home for Cleveland. Mm-hmm. You have all sorts of players immediately putting out on their own message. It's not through some agent or whatever. They can get to their fans immediately. And the problem is, too, you have all these younger players, especially in the NBA, they're using Instagram. They're all commenting on each other's stuff.
Yeah.
They can't then also be upset if that's how they find out about their job. And it sucks, and that's just kind of the way things go. If Woj finds out, or if someone finds out and tweets it out before they can contact the player, it's just business. It sucks, but it's also entertaining for fans.
Well, you just said it. It does kind of suck.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying that I agree, again, with myself, but, I mean, it does. It's not that great. I mean, the one good story I've seen is that when the Red Sox traded their popular third baseman, Kevin Youkilis, in 2012, he knew it was coming, and fans knew it was coming because there were reports all over social media, and so he actually got a standing ovation during his last at-bat in a game because everyone thought it was his last game as a Red Sox, and turns out it was, and he was traded the next day. So at least he was aware that was happening, fans were aware, and so he got like a last good send-off. So, I mean, I could see how it would be good in that sort of sense. But that pressure weighing on him, too, I don't know. I can't get over that.
I mean, athletes gotta ignore it. I mean, that's what they have to do. That's part of their job description.
No, that's fair. I mean, I guess to an extent they know what they've signed up for. But some of the older players, though, that maybe didn't grow up in an internet age or with social media and are now joining social media, I feel like a lot of them might be overwhelmed by this. I mean, we're young people. We think that's stupid, but it is a factor.
I mean, they got to get with the program. Also, they've been dealing with so much other pressure. This shouldn't be. I mean, this is the thing. It sucks, but it's also, you don't see a lot of players actually complaining about this or coaches complaining about this.
Didn't Jason Kidd complain about it?
So the thing with Jason Kidd, though, is he's complained about a lot of things in his career.
Well, some of them are for good reason, like finding out you're fired via Twitter.
Yeah, so that, not great, but it just doesn't look good on the team. It has nothing to do with the platform.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like with a trade, there's so many more intermediary parties. Like they have to contact the NBA or the NHL and get things approved and stuff like that. It's a lot easier for it to leak. Like you don't necessarily go tell the player, "Oh, hey, you're being traded." It was never mind.
True.
So
yeah, you tell them when it's actually official.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my take.
All right, well, that was our discussion for the day. Thanks, everyone, for listening. That was episode 30. I can't believe we made it so far.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Mandy V. Kovacs. Alex is at Alex T. Radu. And our Tech and Sports handle is ITV Tech and Sports. So please feel free to follow us. Give us a rating and a like on Apple Play or Google Play or wherever you listen to us. So once again, thanks, guys.